people have no idea what's about to happen in space. And the biggest factor in all of this is not necessarily that each individual launch's cost is low, is that the capacity they're building for is absolutely gargantuan. So they're building this Starship Gigafactory. It's basically a Tesla production line for producing Starships. They're going to be rolling 3 Starships a week off that production line within 18 months and 3 Starships a day off that production line within, I think, 3 years. And the reason they're doing this is not because it makes commercial sense. They're doing it because they want to get 1 million tons of cargo to the surface of Mars. And to do that, you need 10 million tons of cargo to low Earth orbit. And to do that, you need about 10,000 Starships. So they're basically, the rate they're building is going to increase the capacity of Earth to put stuff in orbit by 100,000 times.
100,000 times.
Yeah, because the reason is each Starship can fly, let's say, I mean, they're saying 3 times a day, but potentially, let's say once a week. Versus a Falcon 9 upper stage flies at most once every 2 weeks.
And a Falcon 9 is the current kind of workhorse of the SpaceX fleet.
Yes. Falcon 9 delivers about 90% all Earth mass to orbit right now. It's the workhorse of the world, basically, for getting stuff to orbit. So that's the real big game changer, is the capacity they're building for is absolutely gargantuan. And people have no idea what that means for the future in terms of, certainly asteroid mining is going to be a huge business. Certainly things like space hotels and communications and what we're doing and manufacturing in space. All of these things become possible when you have low launch with huge capacity.
A way to think about this, right, is in a way what SpaceX is doing is building like a 10-lane freeway to space.
Yes.
Whereas right now it's like it's a potholed road.
Yes. Right now it's like stepping over spikes to get to space. And soon it's going to be a 10-lane freeway.
Do you have any concerns? You said you've been to the SpaceX Starbase a few times that something won't work here. That this, like, there's going to be, in other words, are there any miracles that have to be worked for this to all start to happen?
The short answer is no. If you'd asked me a year ago, there was plenty of people in the space community who thought that the math of it didn't math. Like I have a bet going with somebody that within 2 years, they won't be able to get 20 tons of usable payload to orbit from last May, before they'd done the first re-entry of the upper stage. People just thought that you couldn't re-enter an upper stage that large. There's a thing of the rocket equation, which is basically the larger the rocket, the more fuel you need, the larger the rocket needs to be. And it keeps going. And people are just like, the rocket equation doesn't make sense. It doesn't allow this to even be physically possible. Now we know it's completely physically possible. They're not only building a gigafactory in South Texas, they're also building one in Florida. So they are very bullish on this.
Right.
So is what he's saying there that the infrastructure is there to put these things in space. So Starship's doing all this stuff, and so that then opens up the market to someone like him.
Yeah, basically. So the way he put it in terms of, like, think about it financially, if you go back 15 years, the space shuttle, to get 1 kilo of stuff from Earth to space on the space shuttle was about $60,000 per kilo. Musk is saying that once they get Starship kind of really rolling into production and flying flights on a kind of a daily, weekly basis, you can get stuff to into orbit for as little as $30. So $60,000 to $30. And you think about, oh, well, a kilo to space for $30, that's like in the same ballpark as, international freight on Earth for some stuff. Then you're like, oh, well, if that's the case, then like that opens up a whole, that's why he's talking about all these crazy ideas like asteroid mining and space hotels, because all of a sudden it's like, if you've collapsed that cost by whatever, I don't know the math off the top of my head, 60,000 to 30, that's incredible in terms of just what you can then do, because all of a sudden it's almost trivially cheap to do a bunch of stuff that, a decade ago would have seemed totally insane.